Today I'm going to talk about my favorite practice technique when it comes to painting skies and clouds. Now this is a good exercise because it can help you practice painting wet into wet. It'll give you a good feel for how much pigment you're using and how wet your paper is and the specific effect that you can create with that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet down both sides of my paper here. And the reason I do this is because it helps the paper lay flat on the surface, but also by wetting down both sides of the paper, it gives me more time to work wet into wet. And so I'm not getting it soaked, I'm just taking a wet sponge and just getting both sides of the paper wet. Trying to make it evenly wet across the paper. And after I do that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay in a little bit of light, warmer tones to be the colors of the clouds. So I'm going to start with some raw sienna, some rose madder permanent, and a little bit of lavender. And this is just a little bit of warmth to give me some warm colors to cut around to represent clouds. And I'm just making this scene up, but I'm going to put some clouds here and there and just kind of get some warmth on my paper. And that's why this is a fun practice technique, because there's really not a wrong way to do this. And as the sky comes down here, I'm going to add some more warmth. Just bring that all the way down to the bottom of the paper. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is start adding some blue to the sky. So I'm going to take some cobalt blue, some cerulean, some lavender. Now you don't have to have all these colors to do this. This is just kind of the mixture of blue that I've liked over time. And sometimes I paint it differently. So just find some blues that you like. What I don't really like to do is just grab some cobalt blue all by itself. I like to mix in some cerulean, at least, maybe a couple other colors, to give it a more complicated, more natural appearance. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut around some clouds, add some blue onto here. Now the paper's still pretty wet, and I want that because I want soft edges. And the white, or the lighter color that you leave behind, those are going to be your cloud shapes. And as I get closer to the horizon, I'm going to add more cerulean, and I'm using cobalt teal blue along with that cerulean. I'm just cutting around to suggest some other clouds off in the distance. And you can just bring that blue all the way down. We're not going to really have a horizon We're just working on the sky today. All right, at this stage, you can already start to see you have some simple cloud shapes that you've painted wet into wet. Now, something you need to remember, generally when you're painting skies, the richest and darkest blue is at the top of the sky. And then as it gets closer to the horizon, the blue becomes less intense, and you're starting to see some more of the warmer colors mixing in with the blue along the horizon. Now, that's not the case for every sky, but a lot of times that's how it looks. And so after I get this initial wet into wet wash, I like to go back to my palette and mix in a richer blue. So more cobalt, more lavender, more cerulean. And so now I'm mixing a thicker, richer blue on my brush. So I want to go back up to the top of the sky and add in this richer, more vibrant, strong blue color. And it does a couple things. It helps your sky read better because it's naturally, skies most of the time are darker blue near the top and the blue fades as it gets to the horizon. But also, as the paper starts to dry just a little bit, you can define some of these clouds with some thicker paint on your brush. And so if I want this cloud to be kind of featured in the scene or be more prominent, I can paint around that. Now I have a beautiful soft edge that's a little more defined than some of the other clouds. I hope you found that helpful. The more that you practice this, the easier and more natural it's going to become for you. And I often paint this way. If I can't think of anything else to paint, or if I only have a few minutes, this is a great thing to practice. It gets you thinking about clouds and skies and practicing wet into wet technique. And the more that you do these things, the easier they're going to become for you. And I wanted to mention, if you haven't seen my free video lesson, 8 tips to avoid overworking your painting, take a look at it. You can follow the link below, or you can get to it in my bio on Instagram. I've gotten some great feedback from this video lesson, and it's been very helpful to solve a big problem that I have had to deal with, and that is overworking your painting. So check out that free video lesson, and I'll see you next time.